We have the key moments of Kay's journey. You know, we have that overall storyline. But what I want folks to do is go off the beaten path, because our game is designed for you to embrace that. All the little stories, the characters, the experts who are going to teach you things. Get on your speeder and just take off into the open world and see what you can find. That, I think, is the charm of this game. And I think it's what people have been asking for.
Navid, hello. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast. We've only played about 90 minutes of this game, and they had to kick us out of the hotel so we could stop playing and come do these interviews.
I love that.
Yeah, we're so grateful for your time. We love Star Wars, and to be able to be immersed in a world like this is absolutely amazing, because we've never really gotten anything like this before.
Right.
You mentioned, in our segment earlier that, your first experience with Star Wars was playing the toys with your brother.
Yep.
So how different was it for you when you actually saw the movie? We were like, that's not how these characters sound. That's not how they move.
I mean, I was a kid. I was more just blown away, and I did not realize that was the relationship with these characters. I had the old Kenner toys, and we had, I had, Palpatine and Vader, but the cape was ripped off, so they looked pretty funky. But yeah, it just blew my mind, as I imagine it did for the people in the theaters. I wore those VHS tapes out, I was just at there was a old market down the street, and they had the old VHS tapes, and I was like, that's exactly what I had. It's worn to the nub, But yeah, it's surreal. It's very surreal to be here.
What would you say is the most important part about approaching a project like this? Because I know that you have the love for Star Wars, and it comes so personally for you. So what was so important about this one?
Something that I was very, very aware of, and as a team as well, we talked about this in the story room quite a lot, is we want to honor the past. We want to be true to Star Wars, but we also have to be trying to push forward into something new. And so that was the balance that we were always trying to strike, is the world needs to feel like Star Wars. We need, from the clothing, the lived-in galaxy, the blasters, the biomes, the simplicity of the biomes, but also the fact that it still feels alien and strange. So much love and time went into that, into crafting some of the iconic characters we love, like Jabba, but always being cognizant of, how does this reflect Kay's story? How does this reflect on someone who's not connected to some rebellion or some big battle in the galaxy over the fate of the galaxy? And really being cognizant of, this is a person who feels like the galaxy is rigged against her and is just going to break all the rules, break into whatever she has to survive. And I think there's just something very relatable about that perspective. That was kind of our home. That was kind of our heart to always go back to. So that was probably the most important thing.
I'm interested because with a character like Kay, we've been so lucky to have so many Star Wars games over the last 20 plus years in modern era and everything. And we've gone to be Jedi, we've gone to be bounty hunters, and now we get to be somebody who, is a character we've never played before. So I'm curious, what was it about telling a story like Kay's? And what was it about Umberlee in her audition that you're like, this is the person that we want to tell the story with?
Oh, I mean, there's so many layers. It's a great question. There's so many layers to that. Like I said, with Kay, we knew we needed someone who could do the scoundrel charm, right? The swagger, Umberlee always says, fake it till you make it kind of attitude. And when we were casting, we looked at over 200 tapes, went all over North America, tapes from around the world, all of that. And with Umberlee, she instantly got it without really knowing it was Star Wars at all, because they were NDA'd up the wazoo, right? And she got, even from the way she was sitting, she had the stance, down already. But what really clinched it for us was we had a chemistry read with her and the droid ND5. So the BX Commando droid ND5, who's kind of like her partner, who is making sure she sticks to the job and actually pulls it off. and is absolutely much more on the cynical side, let's say. And so we always knew that those characters would need to play off each other. But when we did the chemistry read, she shows up, and Jay Rincon, who plays ND5, shows up. We hadn't even started talking about the script, and they just start poking fun at each other. They start making fun of each other. Ribbing. It's like, oh, you're in England, huh? Like all this stuff. And then me and our cinematics director, Bogdan, looked at each other like, something's happening here. There's something special. We're not even in the script yet. So I think she brings a natural charm and energy and heart to everything she does, whether she's on camera or in between takes. And I think that was infectious. And that was sort of, I think, the missing ingredient for Kay, because I think it's quite easy to fall into sort of a cynical trap or a quippy or a jokester, class clown trap, and Umberly is not that, right? And so it became this perfect balance.
There's like an authenticity to her character that it shows right away.
You're the writer. You were finding the word I was trying to find. There's a word I've used many times, but that's exactly it, authenticity.
Yeah. No, something we loved as well was when you guys were talking about how you guys got in the writer's room. It was very like TV room style. And you were all pitching different things that you really wanted in the Star Wars world. What were some of the things that you were like, these are my non-negotiables, this is what I want?
It was definitely the relationship with ND5. We already knew, I guess, like Kay, this character is going to be super strong. Nyx, key aspect of her character. We always thought of them together, but it felt like something, who is she playing off of here throughout the story? And it was ND5 was really the answer. And I've always wanted to see a droid who, after the Clone Wars, isn't part of some clone army, isn't part of some big battle. Like, what happens to these droids, right? What happens to them when they're not fighting? And what happens to a droid that has experienced war, and is coming out of that literally scarred, and that's a story we haven't seen before. And then taking that character and saying they're going to be the experienced one in the underworld, they're going to be the enforcer, and pairing them with a rookie like Kay, that was like, this is the dynamic. The core of the game, the core of the story is really bouncing between those three. And so that was incredibly important. It's a long-winded answer, but no, a lot of thought.
And speaking of that thought, we always find it fascinating when you're building a story and you want to tell an original story within the world of this, Star Wars that everybody knows and everybody loves. What's collaboration look like with Lucasfilm when you're trying to, carve new paths, create new characters like Nyx, for example? Like, right. What does that look like when you're pitching ideas and seeing like, does this fit within, our big Bible of what Star Wars can be?
I was nervous about that going in Lucasfilm, the legends, right? Where do we even start? And they were so supportive and really, I think they were excited about the idea of like working with us and our experience with open world games, but also the fact that we were looking at this era from a different angle. And so they gave us a lot of liberty in terms of exploring the underworld, the syndicates. And I think because we were approaching it from the angle of Kay, it actually became a fun sort of game. It became a fun thing of like, how is this character going to react to these moments and these things that maybe are iconic, and they really know so many of the details of things you really wouldn't even think of, like the pillbox lights, within the Imperial compounds, like these are the things that I think a lot of folks don't realize are almost like signatures to the almost subconscious signatures to the franchise that you don't even necessarily perceive, but it's what makes it Star Wars. So they were really great guides in that respect.
Star Wars fans will also be the first ones to point out, like, this doesn't feel like
100%.
Right?
I was in a meeting where one of the folks from Lucasfilm started explaining the pillboxes lights, and I was just like, entranced for 15 minutes. You know, like, this is amazing. Okay, it's just so much detail.
Something that we also love a lot about this game is that being open world, and you have so many different play styles that you can do it with. Like when all three of us were playing, like some of us were running and gunning, some of us were being a little bit more stealth about it. Next to everybody,
I was just saying this to someone else. That's my go-to move, is throw nicks at an enemy and then come in. Yeah.
What would you say is your gameplay style? Like, do you like to go a bit more stealth with it, or do you really just kind of plan it out, or are you just going to run and gun and
honest answer?
And pray.
I worked on Far Cry a long time, and my go-to in any game, honestly, whether it's whatever it is I tend to love going in stealth and sneaking up to enemies. But then I get impatient and I just start, running and gunning. And Outlaws works so perfectly with that, where, you can sneak around, you can distract enemies with nicks and that kind of thing. But if you're just like, I just want to blast through this thing, you just launch nicks at a stormtrooper, go in and punch them out and go off blasters blazing. So I'm a little bit of pretend stealth, but true run and gunner.
Joy of choice.
Right? Yeah, that's the joy of choice, honestly.
That's what we'll go back and play multiple times.
There we go.
Navid, really quickly before we wrap up again, we're so grateful for your time.
Oh, thank you.
We just love to know this has been a labor of love for so many years of this team's life around the world. What are you most excited for your friends and for your family to play and to see when they jump into this?
It's 3 words: step into Star Wars. That was sort of our mantra going on this project. And what I mean by that is, we have the key moments of Kay's journey. We have that overall storyline. But what I want folks to do is go off the beaten path, because our game is designed for you to embrace that. All the little stories, the characters, the experts who are going to teach you things. Get on your speeder and just take off into the open world and see what you can find. That, I think, is the charm of this game, and I think it's what people have been asking for. I want to walk into a cantina and hang out, maybe play some sabacc, and then jump on my speeder and take off. So that's what I'm excited about.
Amazing. Navid, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cannot wait to play.
Thank you so much. Great questions. Yeah.